What really changed when I finally released the weight for. In this episode, I am sharing the honest, sometimes raw truth about the internal shifts that helped me stop self-sabotaging, stop hating myself, and finally release the weight that had burdened me for years. And more importantly, how I kept it off for over 30 years. And this isn't about willpower or the perfect diet. It's about the inside-out journey. Raw, real, and I hope inspiring. I'll walk you through the pivotal moments, the tools I leaned on through the tough patches, and what it truly takes not only to release the weight, but keep it off for the long haul. If you've been struggling, if you've gained and lost and gained again, if you felt like you were the problem, this episode is for you. So let's get going and dive in. Did you know that our struggle with weight doesn't start with the food on your plate or get fixed in the gym? 80% of our weight struggle is mental. That's right. The key to unlocking long-term weight release and management begins in your mind. Hi there, I'm Rita Black. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, weight loss expert, best-selling author, and the creator of the Shift Weight Mastery process. And not only have I helped thousands of people over the past 20 years achieve long-term weight mastery, I am also a former weight struggler, carb addict, and binge eater. And after 2 decades of failed diets and fad weight loss programs, I lost 40 pounds with the help of hypnosis. Not only did I release all that weight, I have kept it off for 25 years. Enter the Thin Thinking podcast, where you too will learn how to remove the mental roadblocks that keep you struggling. I'll give you the thin thinking tools, skills, and insights to help you develop the mindset you need, not only to achieve your ideal weight, but to stay there long term and live your best life. Sound good? Let's get started. Hey, hello, and welcome. Come on in. Oh my gosh, I am recording this. And so come on in, just sit down. I'm so happy you're here. It is the week that we are enrolling the Shift Weight Mastery process. So I get a little crazy and zany during these times. And to be honest and frank with you, I'm going to dive right into it this week because I'm just like, I'm busting my seams here just because I was going to do this other podcast, right? I had it all written out, or like my notes. And then I woke up this morning and I was like, no, I don't want to say this. I don't want to have this conversation yet. I want to talk about what was different when I lost for good, or when I released for good, because I've been thinking a lot about that. When we enroll the live shift, which we only do twice a year, because I'm doing master classes and I'm just really getting into it, I get re-engaged with my own weight release journey. And it just inspires me, and it, not that I inspire me so much, but I like the whole idea of the weight release journey itself is so freaking inspiring. It really, and I know when you're not in a good place, that's hard to imagine, but I want to convey that to you. And I want to convey to you the difference in trying to lose weight versus really going on a journey of weight mastery, right? There's just these huge distinctions. And I thought the best way for me to convey this to you, and even if you're a student of mine and you've released all your weight and you're maintaining, great for you. I think you're going to this as well, because I also am talking about the ongoing journey of keeping weight off as well. So this whole journey of not just taking weight off, but keeping it off long term, and who you are becoming in order to do that. That just is so thrilling and exciting to me. So I hope to convey the same excitement and to instill belief in you that you can do this. Now, we are enrolling and we only have a few days left. So this is the end of April 2025, and we only have a few days left. So if you are interested in enrolling, there is a link in the show notes, and It's www.shiftweightmastery.com/spring. That's www.shiftweightmastery.com/spring. Okay, we are enrolling. It is a 30-day process. So the live version is 30 days of hypnosis, coaching, and meditation that are all housed on an online portal and in an app, and also come to you via email, whichever way you want to get your information. And those come as a process that I'll talk to you a little bit about here. But then there's a preparation time that we go. It's 8 days of preparation before we actually go into the 30 days to get you supercharged and ready and knowing that you can be successful. The meditation, hypnosis, and coaching on a daily basis is really geared to break you out of your subconscious mind, which is the part of us that is keeping us in this old struggle with beliefs, habits, even our identity, stuck in this old way of being, thinking, behaving, to break you into a whole new world, to give you a whole new identity, and to begin giving you the skills on a deep level that are really the skills of long-term success, and using hypnosis, meditation, and coaching to do that. That's the best and easiest way to describe the audio version of this process, which is very much a structured process that offers a lot of success. And then the live part of it is we do workshops, we do also coaching on a weekly basis, and those are live Zoom meetings that are very impactful. The workshops we get in, one is called Carb Savvy, which is just people enroll in the program just to go through Carb Savvy because it is just so enlightening with regards to our relationship with sugar and carbs. And it really gives you a new paradigm with being the boss of those things versus you being owned by sugar and carbs. We have an amazing kickoff process that is an actual process that really gets you motivated and ready for success. We also have a consistency workshop, which is at the end for you to go off and continue to carry on the work and to continue into a long-term weight release. So that is all going on in the weekly meetings, and we get into stuff in the weekly meetings like night eating and emotional eating, and then I answer your questions. And then there's a Facebook group, and even if you're not a Facebook person, and you don't have to do the group, but if you want to, it's a really magical and awesome place because we have 60 coaches, and a lot of these people have been maintaining their weight for a while. I'm in there every day. It's such an empowering place, motivating place. People are so kind and generous. And I really believe our coaches are the magic part of this process. I'm sorry. I'm so excited. I'm like moving my mouth away from my little microphone that I have here. So this just www.shiftweightmastery.com/spring. If you have questions, feel free. Any of the emails that you get from me, just hit reply and you'll get to me. And if I can't answer the question, probably no one else can. But no, I might be answering the question. Somebody else on my team might be answering the question. But we are here to answer your questions. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask. What I want to get in with you today, so that's it. Now, I want to kind of preface all of this by saying, like I said, I woke up this morning and I was like, nope, not going to do that. I literally took my old podcast that I was going to record today and threw it away. I didn't throw it away. I'll probably use it later. But I really wanted, so I scribbled this stuff down. I may have to pause a couple of times and look at my notes because I do have notes. I haven't written everything out. I just have written these things, which is pretty much how many steps, or it's not steps. It's just 15 things that were really different when I released weight for good, and that were different from me dieting and everything like that. So I'm going to start by talking about before my life, before I shifted myself and released 40 pounds and have kept that off now for 30 years, which still is whoa. And again, for somebody like myself who works with people every day in this world, I forget sometimes about my own journey. Obviously, I'm doing the things that I need to do to maintain my weight release, and I'm going to get into that as well. But I'm just so there for other people, and I've seen so many success stories and so many people getting incredibly long-term maintenance but not just that, because this is something I'm going to get into. It's just not about weight. It's about mental freedom and being your best self. And now I'm going to get all choked up because we've had members who are out in the world doing amazing things with all the energy they've gotten from releasing the weight and knowing that they're done. I'm so proud of Julie and Susan, who did TEDx talks this year. Shout out to them. They are just like the pride I feel for them. And obviously they're out in the world doing amazing things. I have members who are training to become leaders out in their fields, or people have gotten into health fields. They've just changed their families and their health of their families. So anyway, written books, climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, found the love of their life, like just amazing things from transforming themselves. And I just get goosebumps when I talk about it, and I'm just honored to be a part of that. And every day I wake up and I'm like, thank you for allowing me to be a part of this. So anyway, when I was struggling, it was painful. I didn't even want to be alive. I struggled from the age of 8, and my mother was incredibly overweight. She knew everything about nutrition. She was a nutritionist. She was a smart woman, but couldn't manage her weight or herself. I would watch her struggling in the kitchen, emotionally eating after dinner, talking, yelling at herself. And I'm like, oh God, I don't want to be like that. And then of course I became like that too. And like seriously, I forget about this sometimes, but just like the pain of waking up every day saying, today is going to be a good day. I'm going to be good today, starting out being good. And then coming home and making cookie dough and eating the whole batch, or having a good week and then going out with my friends on Friday night and drinking 2 pitchers of margaritas and eating nachos and then fajitas. And then, do you know what I mean? It's just every day waking up, or a lot of days waking up or going to bed, just going, why? Like looking at the ceiling and going, what is wrong with you? You know what to do. Why aren't you doing it? You must be dumb. You must be insane. The amount of self-abuse that I spewed at myself, the amount of just frustration and bafflement. I just remember, oh my God, this is making me so emotional, but just like sitting on the toilet and just saying, I hate you. I hate you. Why can't I do this? Why can't I pull myself together? You know what I mean? I hope you aren't in that as dark of a place as I was, but honestly, I had stuff going on for me in my life, but this part of my life was just a black hole. And the way I just communicated with myself, and it was just horrible. I would go into the bookstore. This was back in the day when we had bookstores, literally with like candy in my pocket or bagel or a burrito in my hand. You couldn't eat in bookstores, so I'd smuggle it in and go back into I remember this because I live in LA, and there was I don't even remember the name of the bookstore. It was like Borders Books or something, and it was on La Cienega, and I would go in there. Their diet section was like in the back in the corner, and I would go and I would just sit there and read diet books and eat my stuff going, okay, I'm going to eat everything until I start this diet on Monday. I was too cheap to buy the book. Or I would buy the book and I would take it home and then I would eat while I was reading it. So that was the level of like self-loathing. I thought it was impossible. I couldn't do it. I was 40 pounds heavier than I was now. I could lose weight. I'd been able to lose weight, but then I would always gain it back. I had literally 6 different sizes in my closet. And a pair, I think everybody's heard about my magical black pants that I could gain or lose 20 pounds in and whatever. So one morning, woke up on the scale. I think a lot of you have heard this story, so I'll speed through it. But I was just like, I had lost weight, but I was like so clear It was like I just couldn't do it anymore. It was like I became broke. Like it was the last straw. I felt like an internal implosion within myself. And it's, nope, this is not, I know I cannot do this. And my life flashed before me. And I wasn't that old, but I was like, your life is bankrupt. You have no life because, and again, I had a husband, I had friends, but because of this struggle, nothing meant anything. And I was always thinking about it. And I was like, your life is bankrupt. And we can't do it this. Like, you are smart. You have been going at it this particular way forever and ever. And how many more times do you have to do this to get, this isn't the way? And there wasn't anybody out there saying, hey, there's another way. That was just the way. The dieting industry gives us just go on a diet or do this plan or do this methodology, something outside of us, something outside of you that's going to fix you. Okay. So I cried on the scale. I didn't know what to do. I just mourned all those years that I've been struggling. And then this little voice in me just said, you know what? We can do this. But we got to do it differently. And that's when I made a decision. And I really think that, and we talk about this in the Shift Weight Mastery process, we call it your turning point, where you really make that decision. You're not going back anymore. You're going forward. And I woke up the next day. And this is where it gets funny because I was like, okay, I'm not going back, but what the heck do I do now? And that was a real reckoning moment. I was like, okay, I'm really clear. I'm not going back, but what do I do? So decision number one, and something that was different, was, okay, kid, we're going to do this from the inside and not the outside. So nothing outside. We're not going on anything. We're going to become something. So that was the first decision, was not doing, but being. And then what I worked on first was a vision because vision had worked for me in other areas of my life, actually, to be honest with you. I envisioned my husband and I created him in my mind and I said, okay, universe, help me out here. And I met my husband the next day. So and other things, other goals and stuff that I had achieved came from a feeling, like creating a vision with a feeling. And then like, that's what I want. And having that belief. And because you should have seen my dating life before I met my husband. I wasn't pretty at all. Oh my gosh. And my husband is so different than anybody else I'd ever gone out with. And I just had to create a new paradigm for men, a new paradigm for what I want, for where I wanted to live, what I wanted to do. So I sat down and I created a vision. And this is what I got really clear on, was I was really good at, when I'm skinny, I'm going to look like this. When I'm thinner, this is what I'm going to look like. But this wasn't that. What this was, and this is something we really get into in the shift, because we do a lot of vision work in the shift, is who is Rita 40 pounds down the scale? What is she doing? How is she behaving? And what does that feel like to wake up in the morning at your ideal weight, get out of bed, put on some exercise clothes, go out and do it, and not because you have to, because you want to? What would that feel like? What would it feel like to go out with your friends and go to a restaurant and make healthy choices and be okay with that and proud of that and not worry about what they say? And in fact, Rita 40 pounds down the scale has friends who are like, yeah, that's cool. That's what I do too. Or my friends that were not into that, they're okay with that because I've gotten them to support me. So it became a more holistic view of what I wanted to create and who I was going to be, because that Rita was going to sit through stress, but not eat over it. Excuse me. And if you guys hear my dog barking in the background, that's just Mac. Yeah. So who was I going to be? And that was different. It wasn't about being skinny. It was like, who is this person maintaining their life 40 pounds down the scale? Can you see that distinction? I hope you can. So we definitely work on that in the shift. So the next thing I wanted to started to think about was I had just quit smoking with hypnosis. And again, those of you who've gone through my master class probably know this, and who in students of mine and stuff like that, forgive me, but I'm just going to say that the distinction that was really clear for me when I became a non-smoker was I became a non-smoker. I didn't not smoke. And for years, I tried to quit smoking by trying not to smoke versus becoming a non-smoker. So I knew, and I'd done hypnosis and it made it so easy. I was like, okay, we're engaging the subconscious mind here. And our identity lives in the subconscious mind, by the way. So by starting to create, so I was very clear, okay, when I stopped smoking, I created this new world to be a non-smoker in my mind. And I was like, I need to do the same thing with my weight mastery journey. I'm going to have to create a mastery journey, right? Like not a weight loss journey. It's going to be mastering something. And who I needed to be to master that was somebody who was a student, a learner, to not be good or bad, because that's all I knew was being good and being bad, black and white, good, bad, on something or off something. Never inside of me, always outside of me. So the mastery piece was like, oh, okay, so apprentices become masters, right? And I had learned many things. Like I had been in the catering business in New York City, and I remember starting out as a cater waiter and going and not knowing where the silverware went. And I had to learn how to do that. And then I had to learn how I started cooking for people and going into these fancy homes in New York and making fancy meals for them. And oh my gosh, I was so scared. But every time I learned something new, and I learned how to do butler service, and I knew how to do all these fancy cooking techniques. But I didn't know what I didn't know. And so I was like, it has to be the same for weight management. I don't know a lot of things yet, but I'm willing to learn because I know how to diet, but I really don't know how to keep my weight off long term. So there's a whole world out there that I need to learn, and learners make mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes as a cater waiter. It's surprising that they kept me on, but I got masterful and better. And so the same thing was like, okay, I'm going to be making mistakes. And in doing so, taking on that identity was so transformative. Just doing that, just saying, okay, I'm willing to be a learner here. I don't have to look good from the beginning. Usually when we go on a diet, it's like we get off on being good. It's because it feels good to be good. And so perfect and everything like that. But it works against us ultimately, because then we make a mistake, beat ourselves up, and yada, yada. We all know that. Okay. So I was becoming a learner. And again, we do go through a whole process in the shift for your becoming an apprentice and willing to learn mistakes. So again, really, it's so interesting how unwilling we are to look bad to ourselves, although we'll beat ourselves up for it. But it's always interesting to me, like the biggest stretching piece for people when they start the shift weight mastery process is the first time that they I always applaud people when they get off track, because they're like, oh no, I went out last night. I was like, good. Now we're learning something. Now you learn from that mistake. But our brain and our ego is so unwilling to look bad to ourselves. And that's a huge piece and that subconscious piece is a huge part of what keeps us in the weight struggle. So being able to stretch through that and being willing to go, oh, okay, I actually didn't make a mistake. I'm actually learning something here, which is good, because now next time that happens, I'll be prepared and maybe I won't make the same mistake again. So we don't do that when we're dieting. We just start over again and we lose all those lessons. So that was a big turning point for me. And another thing, and this is, again, something that we really work on in the shift, and especially in our big workshop, our orientation workshop, which is called the Kickstart, is we really work on peeling back the layers of not believing in ourselves, being resentful towards ourselves, and forgiving ourselves so that we can believe in ourselves before we even begin the journey. Does that make sense? I hope so. So we really, because in order to, if I looked back at all of my failures, and those failures defined me, and on a subconscious level, I had zero belief in myself. anytime I started a diet, I was bringing that zero belief and all the baggage of all the failures with me. So I gave up on myself really quickly. And I see this again and again in people who come to see me or my students. What if all your failures were actually stepping stones to success? When we really look at that, we really look at creating high levels of belief even before you begin the process. And that's why I think people can be so successful, is like we're letting go of so much mental and psychic weight before we even begin the process. Excuse me, I'm turning my page of notes here so you're going to hear my paper crunching. Okay, so that's what I started with, was belief, vision, a new identity, knowing that I was on a journey. And that is actually part one of the Shift Weight Mastery process. So that's really where you get immersed. And then I started on my journey, and it was going good. And I wasn't meaning I was being good, but I was learning all these things. I was putting new habits in place. It was really more of what I wasn't doing. I was not beating myself up. I was not starting over tomorrow. And I was trying to make the best healthy choices and move my body. So those were my beginning things. And I lost about 15 pounds, or released about 15 pounds. But things were still happening, just to be clear. It wasn't a linear line down the scale. I was still binging sometimes, not as much, but I was still binging, and I was a big binger. And, I was still stress eating occasionally, and I would still go out sometimes and overeat with friends or my husband, etc. So I wasn't, again, I don't want you guys to think I started my journey and everything was smooth and it was all fantastic. No, it's like you are a human being on a human journey. But the hypnosis, the meditations I was doing is really helping me change my behavior. But something that I recognized, and it was like, whoa, I woke up like I did this morning. It was like, okay, I get it. I've gotten this far, but this is probably as far as I'm going to get. And maybe you felt like this too, because now there's this gaping hole of stuff that I don't know yet. And I was like, what is that stuff? And I realized that I still only knew how to be good on a diet and bad on a diet. I wasn't being on a diet, but I was like doing my best guessing rather than really building skills. And I realized, again, going back to being in the catering business and in the food business, of course, a perfect business for an overeater, right? But what was really clear to me was I built skills around service and cooking and being able to go in and interact with people in their fancy homes and their help and all of that stuff. Those I had to cultivate myself. I had to be afraid sometimes because there was a lot of fear that I had to get over in order to do those things. As you have had to do in your life, there are times when you just had to feel the fear and do it anyway. And I realized that I didn't have a set of skills to really cultivate. Obviously, I was working some weight skills. Obviously, I was working some mindset skills, but I didn't really define them. And I wasn't really clear about what I was really working on. So that's when I really started doing the research into long-term permanent weight loss and looking at behaviors of people and their studies. And they get into very specific things that people were doing. And one of them was really interesting to me because that was tracking. And I realized that I hadn't been tracking or getting clear on like how much I was eating and what my input and outputs were. I was just trying to eat better, trying to move my body. And I didn't really I didn't want to track. And I had a friend who was like, oh, just write down your food for a week. You'll probably learn some stuff about it. And I was like, I don't want to do that. But I did it. And oh my gosh, I got tracking from a completely different perspective because like a lot of my students, they were like, I don't want to track because we so associate it with calorie counting and being a dieter. But when I saw it from like a scientific perspective, I'm really getting clear on how much I'm taking in, how much I'm burning, and what I really need to do in order to release at a rate that I basically decide, I became really willing to do that. And it opened my eyes in so many ways. And I began releasing weight again because I got clear. And one of the things I was really clear on is I was eating way more than I thought I was. And and the way the human brain works, and this is crazy, and I see it all the time in people, is because people come to me and they say, I eat really healthfully. and I'm working out every day. Why am I not losing weight? And and for me, because I was eating healthfully, way more healthfully than I used to, and I was working out. But when I really tracked it, I was like, oh, I see. I'm being good. I'm still like really deficiting probably Monday through Friday, but over the weekends I was eating way more. But in my brain, I would look at Monday and my behavior then rather than the weekend. But the weekend I could eat significantly more and fill in that caloric gap. And my exercise, I realized I wasn't really burning as much as I assumed I was. And this is way before we had Fitbits and trackers and stuff. But sometimes even those things way overestimate how much you're burning. So if the scale's not doing it, it's like oftentimes it just helps to become the scientist and tune into that stuff. So anyway, taking the studies, taking my experiences from my friend, putting them all together, I created those 9 skills of weight mastery that we get into in the shift. Like we totally immerse you in the weight skills, which are basically the skills of releasing weight at a rate you decide, the skills of your environment, because a lot of people don't realize that setting your environment up for success consistently. And by the way, this isn't just while you're starting a journey, but it's consistently. I still set my environment up for success. If I don't, guess what? I start overeating. And people poo-poo those things. Oh, yeah, I'll stock my refrigerator one time and I'll get rid of the gack, but then the gack comes back. And they're like, why am I not being successful? And it's, you let the gack come back. You're like, it goes like our brains will just, what's that term? Everything atrophies. The laws of atrophy is we can be focused for a bit, but then it atrophies. And the skills of weight mastery are about not staying vigilant, but being aware and making that part of who you are rather than something you're doing. Like when we're being good, we get all the food out and we bring all the healthy stuff in. But when you're being a weight master, you have a standard. That crap doesn't come into my house. And if it does, I don't want to see it. FYI, husband of mine. Like he came, for instance, yesterday he came home and he had all these nuts. And I have a thing with nuts. Like I can eat some nuts and I can have some nuts, but the smokehouse salted almonds, they're like crack cocaine. And that's the only salty, crunchy thing, because usually I'm a sweet person. And we don't really, like we have, again, and I'm going to get into that in a moment, I have healthy food. I have treats and eat stuff, and it's not like I eat chicken and broccoli all the time. I live my life and I enjoy food. And I'm a good cook and I know how to entertain. And heck, I was in the food industry for many years. But I have standards. And my husband knows. I'm like, you know where to put those things? He's, yes, I do, dear. And he gets rid of them, out of sight, out of mind, and I forget about them. I'm not going and looking for them because I'm just like, I don't open the bag. I don't eat a bite. I'm like, that stuff, no. I can have, like I said, unsalted almonds. Those are fine. Raw almonds, those are great, but not those damn smokehouse salted almonds. I will eat the whole bag. So I know that about myself. So I have a standard. Okay. So anyway, 9 skills of weight mastery. I'm going to move on because this is getting along. Okay. So in the shift, yeah. So part 1 is like preparing mindset journey. Part 2 is immersion in 9 skills of weight mastery. And part 3 is really called food solutions for a reason, because it's at this point in the journey, you start refining your relationship with food. We don't do that in the beginning. We aren't like, eat this, we eat that. I want you to create a way of eating that you love in order to live your life at your ideal weight. I have a lot of clients and students who are maintaining their ideal weight. If you looked at every one of them and the way they eat and their breakfast, lunch, dinner, or maybe they don't eat all day and they eat at night, or they fast in the morning or whatever, it's all different. Some of them have food allergies. Some of them have food conditions like that they can't eat gluten or things like that. So we aren't saying prescribing, but we give guidance. Right? We're saying here are some best practices with regards to macronutrients, with regards to when are the best times. Don't let yourself get too hungry. But for me, just so you know my evolution, and I have 3 points about this, is I really recognized, and this is what was different for me this time as I was releasing weight, was there were certain foods I had to surrender to. Like I got it. During my journey of weight mastery, there were many times I overate smokehouse almonds or gummies or candy corn, which, a lot of, and, or just like crap food that I thought, oh, I'm healthier now. I can probably eat some of that. Eat it. Eat the whole thing? Nope. Guess I can't eat that. So I had to be, and excuse my French, some of you who are sensitive, I had to be the bitch of my trigger foods enough times to go, got it. Those foods do not work for me at all. Just for alcoholics, alcohol at all doesn't work. But I learned that it's not about all or nothing. It's not about like chicken and broccoli or pizza and ice cream. It is about defining the foods that don't work for you, because we all have genetic and emotional triggers to certain foods that just are not going to change. The neural pathways have been created, the genetic sensitivity is there, and it's not going to work for us. So defining those for me was an evolution. It was a trial and error. I figured those out, and I pretty much know those now. Now, there are times when other foods become a problem for me. And still 30 years in, I've had to go, oh, okay, that's not working for me anymore. So I get the power of food. But I think until you really start shifting and really start loving yourself down the scale, which is another thing that we are really clear that we're doing, we're not just losing weight, but we are accepting ourselves as we are, as we begin the journey at the weight we are right now, because we aren't running down the scale. This is an evolution journey where you are evolving a way of being and eating that works for you so that you can maintain your ideal weight. So that takes a level of self-respect, self-love, self-advocacy. And I'll get into that a little more in a minute. But the clear thing was for me, if that food takes my brain prisoner and then I'm thinking about that food is not going to be a part of my life. And because this is not just a weight journey, this is a mental freedom journey. And you get really clear on that once you start defining these things. So the mental freedom part was like, if that's going to take my freedom away, I don't care. It's not worth it. It's just like smokers. They smoke one cigarette and they're like, why did I do that? And now they're hooked for the next 5 months. I don't need it. So there are a lot of other foods I can eat and I can enjoy. And so I wasn't coming at this from a victim like, oh, I can't eat it ever again. I had to mourn them. I had to go, okay, that's sad. Candy corn isn't going to be a part of my life. Gummies aren't going to be a part, but other things can be a part of my life. Pizza can be a part of my life. Cake and frosting, probably not a part of my life all the time, but I created a magical boundary around it. So that was another thing that I developed a way of eating that I loved that included treats and splurges, but also had standards, like standard amount of protein that I eat a day that allows me to feel stabilized and nurtured and keeps my body, especially my aging body, healthy. Keeping my carbohydrates to a certain level that didn't hook my carb zombie so that then I'm thinking about food all the time. I don't have food noise and I'm not taking a medication. I don't have food noise because I healed my blood sugar, insulin, and my body over time adjusted. And so I don't get hungry. I don't think about food all the time. And many, again, of my students have evolved into the same way, because once you get clear on what works and doesn't work for you, you can have a mental freedom as well. But it is an evolutionary process. It doesn't happen overnight, but it does take really creating and cultivating that powerful inner coach within you that gets clear, who's the scientist and the nurturer, and says, I believe in you. We can do this and we're going to figure it out. That doesn't come from dieting. That comes from cultivating yourself. And all of you have an inner coach within you in the areas of your life that work for you. But none of us have it in the areas that don't work. Like we have a critic and a rebel, very loud, but we don't have that inner coach. Again, I might be a little all over the place. I hope I'm being clear with you, though. I'm reading a little bit from my notes, but then I'm going into my little thing. So really in part 3 of the shift, we really work on that food piece and cultivating a way of eating that is going to work for you. Now, so I continued on my journey. and I hit my goal weight, and that was amazing. And again, I'm not downplaying hitting my goal weight. And there were definitely plateaus along the way. And again, something that was really different for me with plateaus was I didn't take them personally. I got curious. Like, plateaus usually are an indicator of something's going on. Either your body is adjusting and you have no control over that and you just have to surrender to it. Or maybe your tracking is off. Maybe something has been happening in your life, like extra stress, and maybe your cortisol levels are up, and it's just like an adjustment time for your body. There are many reasons, and plateaus can go on for months. They can go on for 1 or 2 months, but they break. But being able to show up for yourself in those times and just stay curious, keep motivating yourself, and not just looking at the scale, because this isn't a scale only journey. We do use the scale as an indicator of, are we reaching our goals? Are inputs and outputs working for us? But the scale sometimes doesn't always reflect what's always going on internally. So focusing on the other aspects of the journey and showing up for ourselves and staying curious and continuing to lead ourselves through those tough times, that is where you really build those skills. Haven't you noticed when things are successful for you, we don't really learn a lot. But when things are not going well, that is when we learn. So if you look at plateaus as huge learning platforms for you and your weight mastery journey, and you actually are mastering more at those times from an internal perspective than you are when you're just like, oh, look, the scale's down another couple of pounds. How much did you learn that day? But when you get on the scale and it's the same, and you have to self-guide yourself through those moments of disappointment, getting off the scale, thinking about what am I doing, what am I not doing, and not beating yourself up about it, but just getting really curious and discovering things. That is when you learn the biggest lessons. Okay, the consistency piece. So plateaus, good times, bad times. 9 months later, I had released those 40 pounds, and then kids. The butterfly and the unicorn did not show up the day I reached my ideal weight. I was really busy that day, and it was, oh shit, excuse me for saying that, but I'm at my ideal weight. Cool. And then I got off and I went and lived my life, because my life had gotten full, because I was being my best self. I was out there. Who I had become was evolving. Like, I was out there living my life. It wasn't just about the number on the scale. But so over the years, and so now I want to talk to you about like just some mental things. So more like the 30 years of maintaining my weight. Okay. And again, I'm not going to get into logistics as much as I'm going to get into mental shifts. And I hope this is helpful for you. I hope you're getting something from this. And this is something like part 4, the Shift Weight Mastery process, is about consistency and going out there and believing in yourself and knowing you can continue the journey. Okay. And these are some things that I learned along the way. There are going to be stressful times and busy times, and weight loss does take focus. Weight release journey does take some focus, especially up front. But then we hit busy times, stressful times, emotional times. And instead of things falling out the window, it's like, I don't have time to take care of myself, because all of these things take precedence. What I learned to do in those times was to have, and I talk about this in my membership all the time, we focus on 3 top skills that are what I would call the pillar skills that then all the other skills fall beneath. So it's not like I have to think about my 9 skills and building them and being consistent. It's okay. You know what? Life is busy. Like, life is really busy right now, because I'm launching the shift and I'm enrolling people and we're going into the shift, and it's going to be a really busy time for me. And that's why I only do it twice a year, because I give 110%. But I still exercise every day. But my exercise looks different than my usual structured exercise. I might only go out for a walk if I have time. But I exercise and I move my body. And that's like a no, what is that? Oh my gosh. Whatever. No, I want to say no brainer, but it's not a no brainer. It's just no exception to the rule. Okay. Second thing is what I am mindful about, not overeating carbs, like eating crappy food that is allowing my carbs to get too high, because again, if they do, then the food noise comes back. And number 3 is I connect with myself with meditation. I do self-hypnosis every morning, or meditation or something. I connect with myself. So those are really three important things that I keep top of mind. And then that allows all the other skills to fall underneath. I hope that makes sense. This from parenting or your job. It's like when your job gets really super crazy busy, or your life gets busy and you go to work and you're like still like dealing with other things from your life. You're like the things that you can do to keep your job, but you might need a little more help. You know the things to do, but you're not doing everything that your job requires all the time. Or the same thing with parenting. There's times when I'm parenting and I'm like, I just have to keep my kids safe and mentally sound, but I don't have to do all those extra things, right? There are just times where you just know the bare minimum, but the minimum is going to keep things going. I don't give up altogether. That's what we usually do when we struggle with weight. Weight mastery is an adulting experience. Usually what happens is when we struggle with weight, we get emotionally trapped at that age where we started struggling. And so we're a kid, unless you started like in menopause or something like that. So we have to grow ourselves up. And that's why having an inner coach, which is nurturing, believes in you, can talk you through those struggle points where the kid in you is just tantruming, that really becomes an important part. I know I had to do a lot of adulting in my weight mastery journey. I'm watching my kids. I joke to my husband now because we're doing a lot of adulting things like being in our 60s. And I just turned 60 this year, for those of you who don't know me. And my husband's it's his birthday today, and he turned 64. But we're doing all these, what I say, we're going through our second adulting phase, but like our legal paperwork and making sure like that if we both died today, our kids had clear trajectory, that we're like cleaning everything out of our house so they don't have to clean the crap out of our house. Stuff like that's adulting, because it's stuff you don't want to do, but you're doing it anyway. And it feels good to do it. Okay. Another thing I realized, and then was different, was I realized I am never going to arrive. Like we always think, okay, I'm going to get here and then I'm going to be done and it's going to be this fixed point. No, it's an ever evolving relationship with yourself. And I'm just going to tell you, it's the most amazing thing. Excuse me. I would not, like everybody, I want you to focus on, I know how painful it is and I know how frustrating struggling with your weight, but the journey that you go on to master your weight is a journey of really creating, like I said, like you get to create yourself in your life in a way that works for you, and that transformation is so worth it. Like the pain I was in, but it gave birth. Feel sorry for my friends who never struggled with their weight, to be honest with you. And I know that's might sound like a callous thing to say. My friends who didn't struggle with their weight, maybe they weren't in that pain that they had to really go through a transformation to get to the other side. They've had crosses to bear in other areas of their life. We all have some sort of journey we need to be on and go through. But for me, I'm grateful for my struggle because it gave birth to a journey with myself and a relationship with myself that every day I wake up and I'm like, oh, wow, thank you. I'm just so grateful to be free from that mindset and to have the skills that I had to develop to really show up and be my best self in my life, for my kids, for my husband, for you guys. I'm so grateful for that, and I don't take it for granted. I am really blessed. Okay, so you need to get good at living in the gray. This is not a black and white journey. This is a gray journey, and that's one of the hardest things for people to get. Is you got to live in the gray. And for that, you need an inner coach and you need clarity. You need to be a scientist. And that's why people are like, but I was like, no, not about perfection. Go make mistakes. Go get used to that weird feeling that you aren't being good. And when you get used to it and you start learning, you start recognizing, you start changing, being in the gray, that's when mastery comes. So get used to being in the gray. And I think I've already said this, but this is a point I wanted to make clear, is this journey isn't as much about weight as it is about mental freedom and self-advocacy and growing yourself up. So the weight part of it has been awesome. I will not lie. It feels good to wear clothes, to have clothes that fit when I go to the closet. It feels good to go to the doctor and be at the same weight and not have that be an issue. It feels good not to be on prescription drugs at all. It feels good to feel good. Although I've been sick for 6 weeks, but now I'm better. I haven't felt so good, but for the most part, I really am healthy and I feel really good. And so all of that part, nice. None of it compares to the mental peace and the freedom and the confidence that really is the gold. Last point, the weight mastery journey, the difference for me that I didn't see when I started, but I want to convey to you, is really an opportunity to be your best. You, to overcome the self-hatred, disrespect, you really need to become a leader of yourself first. And what I find for a lot of our members is then they go out in the world and start being leaders there too. Many of them are leaders when they come in. I have a lot of amazing people in our world. Everybody's amazing, but I just mean people who are leaders in their field, in their work, or are amazing human beings, give a lot of themselves in other ways. And I just look at them and I go, wow, what an amazing human being. But in this area of your life, to be a leader, and we have, like I said, 60 coaches in this shift who are leaders. I'm so proud of them. Many of them are at their ideal weight and are maintaining, and many of them are still on their journey, but they have become leaders. And so I invite you to join us. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope the difference is the 30-day weight mastery process is those 4 parts that I walked us through, starting the journey, having that vision, immersing you in the 9 skills of weight mastery, really creating food, a way of eating that you love, getting you ready to go out and be consistent out in the world. Those are the 4 parts that we use: hypnosis, meditation, and coaching. It takes about half hour a day, at 10 minutes in the morning with the morning meditation, coaching 15 minutes a day. You can listen to it in your car, on your walk, throughout your life, and then out throughout your day at any time. And then usually a 20, maybe a 30-minute hypnosis session. And sometimes they're only 10 minutes, but in the evening or the late afternoon or whenever you choose. So it can fit into your life. Believe me, I know a lot of you are doom scrolling right now and spending time maybe listening to the news, or we waste our time, a lot of it. And to invest 30 minutes in yourself for 30 minutes a day, I don't think is asking a lot to transform your life. If you have questions, let me know at www.shiftweightmastery.com/free. Spring. www.shiftweightmastery.com/spring. And join me. Oh my gosh, we have such an amazing time. It can be fun. It can be frustrating, but you will not leave the same person after these 30 days, and in a good way. I promise you. Okay, so thanks for listening and being here today. Again, let me know if you have questions. I hope you didn't mind my impromptu podcast. I'm almost at an hour here. I'm going to shut up and I'm going to say, remember that the key, and probably the only key to unlocking the door of the weight struggle, is inside you. So keep listening and find it. I will be here next week with another episode. Have an amazing week. Come and join us for the spring 2025 Shift Weight Mastery process. Have a great week. Did you know that our struggle with weight doesn't start with the food on your plate or get fixed in the gym? 80% of our weight struggle is mental. That's right. The key to unlocking long-term weight release and management begins in your mind. Hi there, I'm Rita Black. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, weight loss expert, best-selling author, and the creator of the Shift Weight Mastery process. And not only have I helped thousands of people over the past 20 years achieve long-term weight mastery, I am also a former weight struggler, carb addict, and binge eater. And after 2 decades of failed diets and fad weight loss programs, I lost 40 pounds with the help of hypnosis. Not only did I release all that weight, I have kept it off for 25 years. Enter the Thin Thinking podcast, where you too will learn how to remove the mental roadblocks that keep you struggling. I'll give you the thin thinking tools, skills, and insights to help you develop the mindset you need, not only to achieve your ideal weight, but to stay there long term and live your best life. Sound good? Let's get started.